Hey guys, this is AI Gaming 1776, and today we're going to be looking at some Nvidia graphics cards. Now these aren't just any Nvidia graphics cards, these are Nvidia graphics cards that work in an off-the-shelf computer that I bought, and I thought I would share some of that experience with you, and take a look at them if you're curious about the cards in general. So first let me say, a couple days ago I tried to make one of these videos. I even posted it on my channel, and there was a loud clicking sound that went on throughout the video, and it turned out my camera wasn't fitting into my little Steadicam, and I apologize for that. It was rattling around, and I did not realize that until after I posted the video, because I'm very smart. So again, I apologize if you sat through that video, because YouTube tells me some people actually watched that whole video, so thank you. Alright, this video has no Steadicam and no clicking, so hopefully it will be a good one. Alright, so let's start with this. This is the graphics card that came in my off-the-shelf computer. It says it has 4 gigabytes of VRAM, I kid you not. It is a GTX 745 OEM, but if you look real quick, there is quite a size disparity between that card and the 970 and 980. And trust me, there's a performance disparity too. There's a CUDA core disparity. There's so much disparity. There's a lot. Oh, and if you notice, these cards have, there we go. These cards have power connectors. See, 6-pin power connector here and 6-pin power connector there. 2 6 pins on each card. And this has no power connectors. So no power connectors, no CUDA cores. Well, there's some CUDA cores. But yeah, no, it says it has 4 gigabytes of VRAM, so I gave it some benefit of the doubt, and this card struggles. Just straight up, it struggles. I play Far Cry 4 a lot. This card can run this game, Far Cry 4, at the lowest of settings with everything turned off, all details turned off, all settings turned off, and it will barely pull 30 frames per second. Now, I did think like, you know, maybe this is no better than integrated graphics. Well, I tried the HD 4000 integrated graphics. It was even worse. So I have to say that if you use this card, the GTX 745 OEM, it is better than integrated graphics. As a matter of fact, integrated graphics in a game like Far Cry 4 is unplayable. Literally unplayable. I was getting 8 to 15 frames per second, and everything was skipping across the screen, and it was literally unplayable, and that's not hyperbolic in any sense. Unplayable. This is playable, but it's not enjoyable. It is not enjoyable, because here's the thing. This graphics card is an OEM part that came in a $1,000 computer. Now, you can get this computer on sale for about $750, but still, this graphics card is barely playable, all the lowest settings, 30 frames per second. To put it in perspective, the game looks and plays better on an Xbox One, and guess what? I just started PC gaming, so my first Far Cry experience was on an Xbox One, and that is way better than what this GTX 745 will give you. It just is. So is it better than integrated graphics? Yes, it is. And will this card possibly be better for processing video for your job? You know, if you have to edit and process videos than integrated graphics? I would assume so. But it is not good by any stretch of the imagination. Just so you know, I tried an EVGA 750 Ti, it's not shown here, but a 750 Ti superclock. They're $200 at Best Buy. They're even less money on Amazon. And that was a great experience. I could play Far Cry 4 at 60 frames per second, but all the settings were like on a mix of medium and low. So it wasn't high settings by any stretch of the imagination, but it was 60 frames per second for about $200. Now, oh, and by the way, that 750 Ti, that just plugged into the Dell, no problems, good to go. It was a really good experience. $200. Again, the graphics card I'm talking to you about right now is not on this table. It is the 750 Ti, also an Nvidia card, plugs right into the computer that this 745 came out of for about $200. It was fantastic. Now, a 960 has come out, and that should be even better performing. But I don't know if it plugs straight in, and I'll tell you why. These two cards work in the computer, and thank goodness, I don't know why, but this computer came with a power supply that has 2 6-pin connectors, and thank goodness for the Maxwell architecture making these things more power efficient, because guess what? I didn't have to change my power supply. These went in, but I did have to change my BIOS. So would you have to change your BIOS for a 960? I don't know, but I had to update my BIOS. Anyway, I'll show you real quick. This guy has VGA, DVI, and HDMI. There is no display port in case that matters to you. However, the integrated graphics on the computer, those only have a display port out, but trust me, they are garbage. I wrote here notes on the slide. I guess they're kind of not important since I'm just saying it, but it's better than no card. It's better than no card, but it's just barely playable. And I think it's funny that the PCB is red on this because, you know, NVIDIA's Team Green. This is an OEM part. I would assume NVIDIA made this, but maybe they didn't. Maybe Dell made it under license. But yeah, it's a red PCB, and I thought that was kind of funny because red is like AMD, ATI. That's kind of their thing. All right, so let's look at these other cards real quick. Now, if you're into graphics cards big time, you've probably already seen these. These have been on YouTube since September, but I thought I'd show them to you anyway. Again, I'm trying all these cards out. I tried the original, don't like it. I tried a 750 Ti, I liked it. But to be honest with you, the 970 really was compelling to me because the 970 is only about $150 more than a 750 Ti or even a 960, and it's almost as powerful as a 980. So here's the EVGA sample. SLI is hidden under this piece of rubber. Those are the SLI fingers. This piece of rubber hides them. Now we'll see if I'm smart enough or have enough dexterity to put that back on. All right, this is obviously how it would be inside your computer. You see the EVGA, the GeForce GTX 970. It's a super clock, and what they did was they came out with the super clock last fall, and then there was controversy over the cooling on that card, so they redid the cooling on it, and I'll show you a little bit of it in a second. I'm not going to pull it apart, but I think Jay's 2 Cents did pull it apart on his video, or he showed one pulled apart, I think. Anyway, with the 970, what you can expect to do is play your games in 1080p, and you can run them at about 60 frames per second plus, but the effects have to be turned down. So in Far Cry 4, I have anti-aliasing completely turned off. Now, Nvidia keeps saying that their proprietary anti-aliasing is, you know, it doesn't use a lot of power, but that's a lie. I hate to say it, but it just is. Because I have tried the proprietary, I think it's TXFF or TXAA. I don't know. You'll know it when you see it, and if you Google it and look at, I've tried it, okay, and it always takes away at least 10, sometimes 15 frames per second away from me, and I'm not down for that. Like, I'm just not. So the games look good without AA anyway, for the most part. So you can have Far Cry 4 run a reliable 60 frames per second plus. If you turn AA off, you turn textures to ultra, you turn terrain to ultra. If you watch some of my other videos, I show you all these settings. Now, some of the settings have to be on high or very high, and the effects have to be off. The trees relief has to be off. I have the fur on simulated, which is NVIDIA proprietary thing for Far Cry 4. I do have the fur on simulated. I have God rays off. I think God rays in that game look terrible, even with a 980. That's my personal opinion. I think it just, especially when you're in the buzzer, like, it makes the sky look like you're playing a Nintendo 64 game. So anyway, if you turn effects off with the 970, you can get 60 frames per second. But I am going to tell you there is a caveat. All right, an update. I'm recording this in the middle of February in 2015, and an update recently came out that enabled downloadable content or whatever, but it made some other changes to the game. And even with my GTX 980 in the computer, and even with effects turned down, anti-aliasing turned off, even with like almost no settings on ultra, even my 980 can no longer run that game at 60 frames per second. And I'm getting like 40, 45 frames per second over here on the 970, and I'm really hoping that they fix this, that they make it work the way the game worked like 4 days ago. Because 4 days ago, the game was rock solid on a 970. It was beautiful, actually. I mean, it's beautiful on a 970. It was even more beautiful on a 980. You could turn up the effects, and we'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, back to this card. This is the EVGA. It's the super clock. It's kind of a boring design compared to almost anyone else, like MSI or Gigabyte or even Nvidia, it's kind of boring. It's just a big piece of black plastic with black fans and some really generic stickers. Now, some people might think that's like a stealth look or whatever. They might be into that. But I will tell you this, and this is a really good part, is the mechanicals in this card are beautiful. It's like steampunk in here. All right, it's hard. I was really good at showing this the last time I tried, and I don't know if my lighting's doing it justice. You can see the heat pipes in there. You can see the metal fins. Everything in here is really, really pretty mechanically, and this is my favorite part. I mean, this almost looks like a 1960s, 1970s race car engine in here. You can see the heat pipes. You can see the fins. This looks better in real life. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, the top pretty boring, but it's got the black PCB. There's no back plate, obviously. Now you can see there's 4 heat pipe tubes right there, but over here I think you can only see 3 when you look in there. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Actually, no, there's the 4th one. It's kind of buried. So I think there's 4 heat pipes running through here. There's at least 3, but I think there might be 4. It's kind of hard to tell. 1, 2, 3. I think there's 4 heat pipes in there. That's one of those things where Google might be our friend. But anyway, no, I think it's pretty beautiful. Now let's go over here to the 980, so we don't spend all day on the 2 weakest cards. Now let me talk about the elephant in the room on the 980 real quick. By the way, this is the reference 980. Okay, this is made by Nvidia. This is not like the EVGA reference card. This is the real deal. I think it says on the box, made by Nvidia somewhere. Built by Nvidia. I don't think that one says it, does it? No, it doesn't. All right, no, this is the real deal. And the packaging is really good. I don't have the inner box. This is just the outer box right here. The inner box I put away right now. But no, the packaging is good. I think this card looks really good. It's got the light up LEDs. I love that it's only got 2 6-pins for power, because I think that makes it a realistic option for a lot of people. And let me talk about that for 1 second. See, does an ATI graphics card cost less money? Yes, it does. But here's the thing about this Maxwell architecture. I am running a top-of-the-line graphics card and an off-the-shelf Dell. And I'm doing air cooling, and I'm using my OEM power supply. And I am so happy for that. And I bet you I'm not the only person. Okay, listen, plenty of people want better graphics, but plenty of people don't want to have to start tearing their rig apart. They just don't. So this is really, really nice that it only uses 2 6-pins. And I'm hoping that, now I understand that the 980 Ti uses an 8-pin. I understand that. But I'm hoping the 970 Ti, when that comes out, I'm hoping it still uses 2 6-pins. And if it does, I'm going to upgrade to that. So anyway, this does have a back plate on it. It's got an Nvidia logo. It looks pretty hardcore. It's metal. This comes off if you need the SLI. Here's your SLI fingers here. There's no rubber piece like you have over here protecting them. But I mean, I don't think that's going to matter to many people. I don't know. It might not. But no, so what did I write down about the GTX 980? I wrote down that you can get 60 plus frames per second in 1080p, ultra settings on most or a lot of games. So you can run ultra settings on Far Cry 4 and get 60 frames per second. I personally don't think it looks great. I think the God rays look terrible. I also think the anti-aliasing that Ultra chooses is terrible. And to be honest with you, if you want it to play completely smoothly, because this is a thing that I've noticed, Fraps might tell you that you're getting 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 frames per second, but your game still kind of doesn't play smoothly. Have you ever noticed that? Well, I've noticed that I still have to turn down some effects on Far Cry 4 to get it to play super smoothly, 60 plus frames per second. But it's also a demanding open world game, and it looks gorgeous. It looks so good on this card. However, the same caveat applies. Ever since that update, even this card with anti-aliasing completely turned off, with the water effects turned to low, and a lot of things are turned down. Almost everything's turned down except textures and post-processing. It still is getting like 54 frames per second, and it's chugging. It stutters on the 970 right now. Which, by the way, on the 970, I forgot. Let's go over the ports. It's got 2 DVI ports. Everything comes covered on this card. They don't come covered on that card if that matters to you. This has a little cover for the DVIs. It has a plug in the HDMI, a plug in the display port. That's a full-size display port over here. And then over on this card, you have 1 HDMI and 3 full-size display ports. And then you also have a DVI like chilling out down there in the corner. So you could, I don't know if 5 monitors are supported, but there are 5 connectors. So anyway, most games, okay, let's try this. A game like Metro Last Light. That game on either one of these cards will run in highest settings at higher than 40 frames per second for me. Maybe they will for you. Maybe your computer has something going for it that mine doesn't. You know, maybe there is something to be said for water cooling your computer, or having a super awesome motherboard, or using SSDs in a RAID 0 configuration. I don't know. But for me, even with the 980, Metro Last Light will not run full settings above 45 frames per second. And then Crysis 3 will run at 60 frames per second max settings, but the game has frozen on me and completely locked up 3 different times. Now, I don't know what's causing that. I don't know if... I assume it's because I have it on max settings, but I could be wrong. All right, but all the other games that I've played, complete max settings is what I've been able to achieve. And so let's take a look at the aesthetics real quick. This does have that cooler. It's not quite like the Titan cooler, because, you know, Titan cooler's in the middle, but it's the same general idea that you've seen on Nvidia top-notch cards in a while. It's got this big turbo fan here, this big turbine, versus the dual fans. Because if you notice, other companies, they use big, giant curved blade fans, where Nvidia and ATI, they seem to use like one fan basically, and they have like a little turbo tunnel. Your heat exhausts out over here. But I will tell you that this reference card does run hotter than this card over here. It just does. And that could be for a lot of reasons. For starters, this is a 980, that's a 970, so maybe it's just drawing more power. But I think it has more to do with the cooler design, because a lot of people have said that in their experience, reference cards seem to run hotter than third-party cards. To put it in perspective, okay, real quick, the reference card does idle at a cooler temperature than this card because the fan is always on. Now, I did 2 videos showing you how loud this 980's fan is. The second video, I used a decibel meter. And long story short, most of the time you will not hear the fan on this graphics card. It runs at about 1100 RPM, and it is super quiet. Most of the time I don't know it's on. Because it's always on, it tends to, if the computer is doing nothing, idle at a lower temperature. Sometimes as low as 28 degrees Celsius, usually about 31, 32 degrees Celsius. This card over here, it idles at about 32 to 38 degrees Celsius because the fans only kick on when it gets up to 60. So this does idle a little bit cooler during, you know, when it's just sitting there doing nothing. However, under load, okay, this card, the reference card here for the 980, it is louder at 100% fan, but you'll probably never, no, it's quieter. This is quieter at 100% fan, but you'll probably never see 100% fan. This card is louder it's very loud. It's like a hairdryer under 100% fan load, but you will probably never get it to 100% fan load. I've only seen either card get up to 100% on the fan when I manually told them to do it using a program because I wanted to see how loud they get. So let's talk about when you're really using them. So when I'm really using this GTX 980 and I'm playing Crysis 3 or I'm playing Far Cry 4 and I'm playing them on pretty much ultra settings in 1080p. Now, I haven't talked to you about 1140 or 4K or any of that. I am just talking about how these cards do in 1080p. This card operates in the mid 50s to the low 70s. I've seen it get as high as 71 or 72. And the fan's not loud, but it is up there at 71 or 72. Whereas this card, I think the highest I've ever seen it get is 68, and that was one time. And a lot of times it's in the high 50s. Even under load, the fan's still not on, and this card's kicking it right around 58 degrees. But sometimes it does get up to like 61, 62. But really low temps on this EVGA. So if they did improve the cooling with the super clock, then I'd say they did a pretty good job. They're both quiet cards. Now, if you're used to 80 degree cards or 90 degree cards, then you're going to consider either one of them to be cool. But in my experience, the EVGA card is definitely cooler in normal operation. Even like when you're playing games, when you're web browsing, whatever you're doing, normal operation, not running benchmarks. Now, this card over here gets my whole cabinet hot, which is interesting because it's supposed to be venting the heat out the back. And I've read where people have said, oh, well, the benefit of the reference card is it exhausts the heat out the back. Well, that may be happening in this card, but my whole cabinet is appreciably hotter. I can put my hand in the cabinet and I feel the ambient temperature in there is hot. But again, it could be because it's a 980 and it does have, more horsepower, and that's a 970. And then I think a lot of it goes back to the cooler. So anyway, and then don't forget this little guy's like, hey, I'm a graphics card too. I'm made by Nvidia. And it's like, yeah, you are a Sparky. Anyway, I hope this video has been at least a little bit informative for you, because I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of videos, what happens is these guys have EVGA or Gigabyte or Zotac or somebody send them out a graphics card. It's like a media review unit. They put it in their test bench. They run some synthetic tests, and then they get the frames per second on like 3 or 4 games, and then they make a 10-minute video and they talk about what the card looks like. Well, guess what? These cards have kind of looked the same for like 2 years, 3 years even. But, they talk about what the cards look like. They tell you the benchmarks. And what's the test bed that they put these in? They put these things in a test bed with a $1,000 processor. It's water cooled. It's got SSDs. It's got a 1,000-watt power supply. Look, I'm just a regular guy. I'm a guy that bought a computer off the shelf, that then went and bought a graphics card off the shelf, and he's trying to share his experience with you. This is like probably as grassroots as it gets when it comes to these kind of things. So hopefully this helps you. Now keep in mind, though, everybody's experience is going to be different. Maybe your off-the-shelf computer can't run these top-of-the-line graphics cards. Maybe it just can't. I don't know. Or maybe you built your own computer, and maybe you have an AMD setup, in which case this video is a curiosity to you, I suppose, but it's not really going to help. But, maybe my situation won't apply to yours so directly. I don't know. But I'm hoping that this gives you a little bit of info. And if you have any questions, let me know. I try to be really good about answering questions in the comments. I have a certain amount of passion for this. I think this whole world is very interesting. I'm kind of like a guy. Look, my computers have been Apples since 2007 because I reached a point where I got tired of tinkering, right? Like I had stuff to do. I needed my computer to work. I bought Apples. I bought AppleCare. And guess what? I had problem-free computing for going on 8 years now. And it's been pretty nice. My daily driver is still an Apple. When I post this video to YouTube, I'm going to use an Apple. When I edit videos together, I'm going to use an Apple. When I capture gameplay footage off my gaming PC, I still use an Apple. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm just getting back into PC, but it's been a really interesting world for me to get into because Apple doesn't let you do this. Apple doesn't let you change your graphics card or change your power supply. And you better not change your BIOS if you have an Apple. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do these things. You can change your RAM. On some computers, you can change your hard drive, but you can't even do that on all of them now because they have a new proprietary method for the hard drive. So don't get me wrong, I like Apple and everything, but this PC stuff is kind of neat to me. And I had a lot of questions. And I think even people that have never had an Apple, I think people that have always used PC, I think even those people still have questions when it comes to graphics cards. So hopefully this helps. And if you have questions, let me know. And if I can't answer them, I can at least try to point you to someone that can. So I hope you like this video. I know it's a little bit lengthy. It's a little bit rambly. A lot of that is because I try to do these videos in one shot so I can upload raw footage to YouTube that way. Because when you use a video editor, there is a certain amount of compression that happens, especially with the kind of camera that I have. My camera doesn't shoot in like a native format that many video editors use. So I try to upload raw footage and I try to just talk to you like a regular person. And again, I hope you guys get something out of these videos. And if you don't, if you think that maybe I should edit the videos, if I should cut the rambling down or whatever, just let me know. I appreciate feedback. So yeah, these are 3 NVIDIA graphics cards that for sure will work in a Dell XPS 8700 because I've been using them. Remember, if you want to use these 2 guys back here, you will have to update your BIOS. There are threads on Dell's official forums that go over how to do this. I strongly suggest that you do your research, that you read those, because I'm going to tell you right now, I did not change my BIOS and put these cards in lightly, okay? It took me probably 4 or 5 days of reading and really thinking about it before I pulled the trigger. Oh, in case you're curious, I am probably sticking with the GTX 970. And, you know, this video is already long enough. Maybe I'll make a video later telling why, or maybe I'll write it up on my website, which is ai-everything.com. This video will be posted on AI Politics 2, that channel on YouTube, AI Politics 2, because I used to be in the political stuff. And, you know, like I already had like a lot of things set up on that channel. I didn't want to start a new one. I'm sorry. I will think about changing the name of it. But the thing is I don't just have graphics cards on there, and I don't just have politics on there either. I do like demonstrations of using a Dyson vacuum. So there's a lot of interest. Anyway, apologize for talking your ear off. This has been AI Gaming 1776. And again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you just want to say hi, hit me up in the comments. I appreciate the love. All right, talk to you later. Thanks.